Well, hey, thanks for stopping by. It's Friday Live.
It is Friday Live.
I'm Mark.
I'm Nicole.
And we are going to talk a little bit about woodworking today.
Yeah.
And a lot about a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. No,
Well, we should give an update. I know you have a list, but just to get it out of the way, last week I was thinking we weren't going to hit our goal.
Oh, that's right.
For woodworkers fighting cancer.
That's right.
But we hit the goal.
We did hit the goal.
And
over $15,000.
Over $16,000.
That's crazy.
To the Cancer Genome program.
Dana-Farber.
Yep.
Jimmy Fund.
Yep.
That's what you're trying to say. Let me help you there.
So thank you everybody that matched our gifts. We had a number of people that matched our gifts, like not just they weren't companies or individuals that said.
So awesome.
Yeah, so you can still donate if you go to Woodworkers.
Where's your mic clipped? You have it so that your hair goes over it.
Sorry.
Center it. Put it in your sternum, Nicole.
Oh, okay.
Right in the sternum.
Sternum.
There you go. And this way your hair won't touch it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
We're new. I'm new here. We've only been doing this for like 2 years.
Yeah, so 16 grand,
yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you everybody for participating.
Awesome.
Very simple project. We weren't sure if the 1 month format was gonna pan out. It was a little trickier.
I told him I don't like
Nicole.
it because it's all me doing everything,
yeah.
And I'm like,
but at least you're busy for a month and then you're done.
I don't know.
All right, so let's, we got a couple other things to talk about real quick. Happy Veterans Day. Special thank you to anyone who has been brave enough. Thought about this the other day. You know, some of us just choose regular career paths, right? You know, and you go, okay, I'm gonna go to work today. I'm gonna sit at a computer. I'm gonna type some stuff. For me, I go to work, I build some stuff. I know there's a few dangers in the wood shop, but generally I'm in control. I protect myself. These are people who have decided to take a career path that by its very nature puts their life in jeopardy.
You have a lot of family members that did the military, and so do I.
Yeah, I mean, both of our families do, certainly. It's just, it's something that's hard to even describe the amount of respect you have for people who make that choice.
Are there other countries that require, like we are very fortunate to have, to live in a country where people can choose
How about,
to do that career.
North Korea? I don't think many people have a lot of choices there.
Well, no, there's like, I can't remember who it was. It's
like a certain percentage of the population has to join the military or something?
Well, no, it's like you have to do a tour.
Like you have to do a certain amount of service.
You are a citizen.
And there's a lot of people who think that that'd be a good idea in the U.S. too. Yeah. You know, to sort of give you perspective. Anyway, thank you everybody. Happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service.
I will say, my grandfather was in the Navy. Yeah, Navy. I have 3 uncles. One was in the Marines, one was in the Army. And because Mateo had a thing at school where you have to write it all out. And I was writing this and I'm like, aren't they, there's like, the branches kind of have friendly competitions between them. So I'm like, there's 2 navies, a Marine and an Army. I'm like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, usually you would think they would all go in the same branch.
Because, you know.
Interesting.
They have loving nicknames for each other.
I have loving nicknames for you, Nicole. Okay, so real quick announcement. In TWWstore.com, that's our regular store website, we have a new apron available. It's this guy, and this is actually a prototype. The pocket will come up a little bit higher on the finished version. This is a high-quality tobacco oil leather apron made by Calavera Tool.
It smells leathery.
It smells wonderful.
Yeah.
I love this thing. These are now available for pre-order, so go there, TWWstore.com if you're interested.
You're only going to batch them out in 25.
They're in batches of 25, so the first 25 we hope to have out and delivered within the first couple of weeks of December, so well before Christmas. But we're not 100% sure about the next batch of 25.
Ladies, if you're looking for a good Christmas present.
And look, it's not cheap. This is not made to be cheap. It's one of the highest quality, if not the highest quality apron you will ever purchase. And it is custom designed by me for things that I like to have in my apron. And I think you'll like them too. Okay?
What was I going to say?
Oh, taps are back in stock too, by the way. They all just came in. Anyone who has a back-ordered tap, it's going to go out now. And then once those are done, new orders will go out as well.
Since we were talking about Veterans Day and somebody said in there, thank you for your support, it made me think of the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, if you haven't seen, I think it was 2 episodes ago.
Yes.
It was a whole thing about the whole thank you for your service
funny.
issue.
It's so, and Larry David.
It makes a lot of light of it, but it's funny.
But he does what he does. And
he's like, well, 3 other people already said it. Why do I need to say it? The guy gets all bent out of shape. Anyway.
So yes, thank you for your service.
Okay, and we also have a Green Adirondak Chair sale in the Guild, the woodwhispererguild.com, 30% off. Let's get to some woodworking.
Okay, let's get some woodworking stuff.
So this is their new ball gouge. This thing is pretty interesting. I've seen it in action. It attaches to a grinder, as do most of Arbortech's implements. It's got this fantastic little ring blade deal on there, and you could use it to carve bowls and all sorts of small implements. I'm just making words up now, Nicole.
I think I rubbed off on you.
I'm stringing a series of words together that don't quite make sense.
Yeah.
But this thing looks pretty cool. You know, like most Arbortech stuff, it can really hog out material in
high
a
quality
hurry.
tools.
So I don't know. I'm thinking bowls, spoons, hand carved type things. So we'll play with this in the future. But they sent me one, and we thought we would just give you guys a quick little look at it.
And I just want to quickly send a thank you to Derek. Is that Anderson? Mm-hmm. Derek. He picked up a Nintendo Switch, and it had an Mario Odyssey coin in it, and he thought of Mateo.
So that's great.
So he sent it to Mateo, and Mateo was so excited. Mm-hmm. So Derek, thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate that. So this is the jewelry box I'm working on for the Guild right now. It has 6 drawers. The top drawer is actually a faux drawer. It's going to have a compartment in here that's accessible only from the top, so this guy will be glued in. We're still working on the drawers now. Yesterday, I decided to take a few practice runs and try these recessed half-blind dovetails. And what a pain in my butt this was. So we'll see how that goes. I actually have to do this 8 times successfully and all by hand. So that'll be fun.
You're growing, honey.
I guess.
As a woodworker.
I guess. So that's what I'm working on now. This is a Guild project. If anyone's interested, it's the current one that's going on as we speak. So let's get to some questions, shall we?
Simon wants to know what is designed to fit in the pockets for the apron.
Anything you want to put in the pockets.
So like, I know you tested out a tape measure, and of course in the top pockets there are like pencils and stuff like that. We should probably load it up and take a picture.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I usually put like a small square, a little combination square will go in there. That works out kind of nicely. Quite a few things you could drop in there. It's just a real versatile pocket, and then it has flaps on it, and that's kind of one of the big things. Yeah. I don't like dust getting into my pockets. Wood chips. So I like having, no wood chips in there, please. Okay, should we start some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So I got a question here from Grayson Dillon. He says, since winter has come, I was wondering about how cold affects glues and finishes. My shop isn't heated and gets very chilly, so I run a couple of space heaters while I'm out there, but not around the clock. Are there any special storage considerations? I'm also about to start my Rubo build, and I'm curious about if there are anything special I need to know about the slab glue up to prevent any issues. All right, so regarding the slab, I mean, cold temperatures are always an issue when you're working with like PVA glues. If you've ever done a cold glue up, you'll find that the glue just kind of gets chalky and it doesn't grip very well. So there have been times that I, really wasn't aware that that was a problem. And then you take the piece inside and you actually can see there's a chalky nature to it that normally isn't there. If you see that, that's a problem because that joint is probably going to be able to just kind of snap apart very easily. So you do want to keep the temperature within the working range recommended by the manufacturer. Same thing really when you go back to talking about finishes and glue storage. You really want to prevent these things from freezing. My shop at its coldest gets probably 60 degrees, and I'm okay leaving everything in here. If your shop is uninsulated and maybe you don't have any heat or anything like that, it's a real good idea to get the finishes and the glue in the house. And you can actually just put them in a box. I did this for a period of time. Oddly enough, at our first house in Arizona, I don't know why, that one summer or that one winter seemed like it was colder than any other winter we ever had.
The one winter you wore a beanie.
Yeah, exactly. But I put everything in a box and brought it down into my basement. And if I needed something, I could go down and get it, use it for the day, but I wouldn't store it in there, right? So that's something, if you could work it out with, the people in your house. So, you don't want it to be in something that kids can access, obviously. But if you can just kind of put them in a box, put them inside in a laundry room, in a closet somewhere, and this way they at least stay up to temperature. That's what I would suggest.
I got a super chat from Ben, our friend Ben, and I know he wants me as Arkenberg. Did I say it right?
I would call it Ackenberg.
Ackenberg. He's a vet. So he says, really? Yeah, he was in the military. Thank you for all you do for us. And that reminds me, we do offer a military discount. And we don't, it's on the FAQ, but I don't think we've ever like, hey, we have a military discount.
It's like a pain in the butt to do, but and that's why we, it's low key, but it's there.
If you search it, like any good shopper, that online shopper does, you would say the Wood Whisperer military discount, and you'll find the link and all the instructions.
Right. So. Okay. Jeff Grant wrote in, he says, quick question around the age-old problem of planer snipe. Let me just sum it up. He's got a DeWalt planer, and on the right side, he doesn't get snipe. On the left side, he gets lots of snipe. So there's clearly something, calibration-wise that could be fixed about this. But his question is, in its current state, he finds himself always using the side that doesn't snipe. And, his brain is saying, I'm only using half of my blades, it's a waste. So then he goes and uses the other side, and then he gets the snipe. And he's asking for recommendations. Well, first of all, I would say fix the snipe problem if it's possible. A lot of times, people recommend lifting up the board or setting your in-feed and out-feed tables on a slight angle so it, just by nature, as it's coming out, is sort of being lifted. That works sometimes, but ultimately, I think the source of snipe is really the challenge, finding exactly what it is. Here's snipe. Here's snipe. And I don't know that you're necessarily going to be able to fix it. I mean, I have a little bit of snipe in my planer, and no matter what I do, calibration-wise, I can't remove it completely, and sometimes you just have to live with it. So get it as calibrated as possible. And at that point, if it's still, you see that difference between the left and the right, my recommendation is rough plane on the left, fine plane on the right, right? How many times do you send something through just one time? Not that often, right? Most of the time it's multiple passes. So take all your starting passes on the snipe side, and then if you know the right side, works a little bit better, when you dial it down, make your final pass on the right side. And this way you'll actually get a little bit more even wear, and you'll be able to use all sides or all parts of the length of that blade. Alex Leffelman writes in, he says, I have always been curious about your Powermatic sponsorship and how it came about because it's such an enviable position to be in. Did you have a suite of Powermatic tools before the sponsorship? How long does it go back? Okay, he's got a lot of questions here. I'll quickly say, yes, I had a lot of Powermatic.
Yes, he did.
That was the first, I think I told the story before, buddy of mine in Southern California, Temecula area. He had an issue where he was selling off all of his gear, and it was all very new stuff. So I got a bunch of Powermatic stuff, probably a couple years after I was into the hobby, and the family all kind of chipped in.
Well, we realized that, so this is going to be a thing.
Yeah. Oh, so he's not just going to get sick of this. So this isn't going to be like golf. Okay. So yeah. So I did have that stuff ahead of time, which is why we approached Powermatic. But if you really want to get a little deeper into this stuff, I'm not going to cover it now. Check out the latest Made for Profit podcast. I guested on there. We talked a lot of business for like an hour. And frankly, it's one of my favorite interviews I've ever done because it actually talks 100% purely about business motivation. The theme of it was running your own race. I think you guys, if you're interested in that back end stuff, you're going to enjoy it.
I'll link to it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes as well. They butchered my name in their thumbnail, though.
That's all right. I butchered it for the first month I knew you.
You're terrible. Okay. Mike Davies writes in. He says, hey, Mark, I'm wondering who your favorite YouTubers are. So far, I have you guys, Pachuto, Steve Ramsey, Bob, who likes to make stuff, Cremona, Peter Brown, a couple others, but looking for a few to add to my list. Also, what does Nicole watch? I assume she gets more than enough time in front of the screen showing woodworking content, so her subscriptions would likely not be full of that. So this is one thing. I'm always disappointed to tell people that I don't watch much YouTube.
No.
If I'm watching things on YouTube, and it's just this, it's like my other hobbies, right? I live,
I do have two shows that I watch. They're not woodworking shows.
Right, that's the whole point. Like anything I watch for recreation is probably not going to be woodworking. What are your recommendations? What do you watch?
So I am a big fan. I love history. I like knowing kind of details. And there's a guy on the internet called the Internet Historian. And it's just a guy, but he does such great research on like how a meme got started or how like that Fry Festival, like what went down. And he researches the heck out of it. He spends so much time on it. I love watching his videos. Whenever they, I think it's one of the only ones that when it comes out, I watch it.
You watch it, yeah.
I also like Glove and Boots, which is two puppets, and it's hilarious.
Nice.
But they just announced they're stopping.
They're not going to do shows anymore?
They're not going to do shows anymore. And they did a video on it, on how Facebook has basically kind of, and YouTube, with their algorithms and all of the crap, have really hurt their show. And they can't do it anymore.
That's why you shouldn't make a living on YouTube.
You shouldn't put all your eggs in the basket.
That's
a good example.
Basket, that's for sure. Again, I said it a million times. If you have a business on YouTube, you don't have a business.
So yeah, those are my two that I really like, and I'm sad that Glove and Boots aren't going to be producing anymore.
Well, I mentioned my barbecue ones that I watch in the past.
Yeah, we talked about that.
When I was biking and cycling a lot, I was watching those.
The barbecue guy, the PBS show, Franklin, didn't his restaurant.
He had a fire.
Yeah, at his restaurant.
Now, as far as woodworking goes, I noticed this as I wrote some names down. It's an interesting thing, an interesting phenomenon, and I don't know how to describe it or why it's like this, but I'm friendly and have acquaintances or acquaintanceships. They're acquaintances? What do you call that? I'm acquainted with them. That's the way you would say it, right?
I guess.
Well, why am I asking you?
I don't know.
You have terrible grammar. So these are folks who I've met or I have ongoing relationships with that I really, really like, but I don't watch their stuff, okay?
Yeah.
Just a few names here, and you'll probably recognize some of these. Of course, DeResta, Cremona, Bob from I Like to Make Stuff, Pachuto, April Wilkerson, Four Eyes, you got Nick Ferry. I mean, there's a bunch of these people, and I'm leaving quite a few out, who I'm very friendly with, and we all sort of are people in the same space, but I don't watch their stuff. It's nothing against them, I just don't watch them. But there are a couple people that I do watch.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like you. If I see the video, it's like, no, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and watch it. Two, for instance, Doucette and Wolf is one channel, and then the Ishitani guy that makes some just amazing stuff. So these are people who I don't know. I have no relationship with them whatsoever, but I watch their stuff. What's the deal with that?
I don't know. But we should also say we have audio podcasts that we listen to, too. And I am a huge... Frog Pants listener. So if you're not familiar with Frog Pants, that's Scott Johnson. And he does video on YouTube, so like the morning stream, which I'm a part of, by the way, on Wednesdays, is like a morning show online. So
it's really good.
And it's funny because we've known Scott for so long. It's like a constant for us, but there are a lot of people that don't know about it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good morning show alternative if you like radio morning shows. All right, so let's get to Mike's question. He says, nope, already did that. Derek's question. Grain filling question. I've used thinned out Timbermade or sawdust and wood glue in the past. However, I've heard of folks wet sanding with Armor Seal and other similar finishes. Could you cover the ins and outs of this process? Additionally, when is it recommended to a recommended way to go about filling the grain? I'm not going to be able to really go into too much detail, but the bottom line is you typically use the gray colored wet dry sandpaper. You use that with a sanding block, you put some finish on the surface, and then you just kind of sand it in. Now, I wouldn't necessarily use Armor Seal for this because it's a process that you want to take your time with it. So if you just use a diluted varnish, which is what Armor Seal is, it can start to dry on you as you're doing this process. So it's really a process, I think, that lends itself better to an oil varnish blend. Those take longer to dry, so something like a Danish oil, or if you put a little bit of linseed oil or tung oil in your Armor Seal, it'll give you more working time. And this way, you sand the surface, and what you're doing is wet sanding. You're creating dust at the same time as mixing that dust with the finish to create a slurry. So you're putting that all over the surface, and then basically you could either just let it dry, you could even take like a squeegee type thing and go kind of across the grain and drive it down into the pores. That type of thing can work. And it's something that may take multiple applications to get it to actually look like it's even doing anything. It's not quite as effective as like one coat of a filler, an actual pore filler product. So it's a little bit more of a natural way to do it. So if you want somewhat of a light duty finish, you're going to be using an oil varnish blend anyway, and you're doing something that isn't necessarily going to be building a very thick film, I think that's a good solution. It's kind of a hand rubbed, old school way to do it. If you're looking to really get a dead flat surface, you're going to be building a high gloss, I wouldn't even waste your time with that. Use a pore filler, fill it properly in one coat, maybe two at the most, and then start building your finish. So if you're doing that kind of hand rub thing, I like that application for pore filling.
Cool.
Okay, John.
I don't know what he said.
you don't listen to anything. John Mahoney says, hi, kids. I'm building a blanket chest for my daughter-in-law. I plan on lining it with cedar. since finishing isn't my forte, he says you can use that word if you want to.
Forte?
Yes.
Forte.
I'm sure that I should finish the insides of the mahogany, but should I finish the underside of the cedar? I know not to finish the cedar side, the inside, that you'll be able to see. Cheers to your family and happy holidays. You know, you could probably find different schools of thought on this. For me personally, I wouldn't bother finishing the cedar at all. I would simply line it on the inside of the case and be done with it, and it'll have airspace all around it. I do have a little bit of concern that if you wind up finishing one side but not the other, there's a little bit of a discrepancy in moisture absorption, humidity. So you could possibly have some warpage, but if you are, let's say, gluing it to the panels, then it might not matter so much. But ultimately, I think you should probably just leave it unfinished.
You're trying to get that burp out.
No, I'm trying to stop it from coming out. I would probably just line it and leave it raw. That's just me, but maybe people in the chat room have different suggestions for that. Yoso wrote in. We haven't heard from him in a while. He says, hey, long time not asking anything, but I'm back. That's all he said. No, I'm just kidding.
Reminds me of my South Park game.
Does it?
Yeah.
I'm in the market for a Fuji turbine, and I watched a video on them. Well, one thing is unclear to me is how loud are these machines? How much noisier is the mini mic compared to the Q? I have neighbors close by and would love to prevent issues with them, but the Q1 is pricey. I'm scared that it'll be loud as my pancake compressor, and that would be bad. I'll tell you the truth, Yoso, I don't know. I've never actually used anything other than the Q series. I don't know how much louder it is. I would imagine these numbers are probably on their website to let you know how many decibels.
Or if you just contact them, they're super helpful.
But ultimately, I can't imagine it being all that loud. Generally, think of the sound like a really loud vacuum cleaner, right? So I think if you have just let's say like a crappy old shop vac, that's probably going to be about as loud as the non-Q series version. The Q series sounds like a really loud shop vac that's been, maybe you put a blanket over it, right? It's just a little bit deadened. So I can't imagine, it's going to be so loud that your neighbors are going to be bothered by it. And even then, what you do is put the turbine itself. It's a good idea to put that far away. You've got a long hose, so use it. Put it far away because you don't want it to pull in any of your spray from your finishing process. You don't want it to pull in the overspray as it's producing that air. So I like to separate it. So keep the turbine in the garage, right? And then go outside if you're spraying in your, I don't know where you're spraying, I'm assuming you're spraying outside. And then go spray outside. So the sound outside, most of what you're gonna hear is a little hum in the background and then from your gun, right? And that's a good way to make sure the neighbors really don't even notice what you're doing. The smell, that might be something your neighbors might care about. 2 more questions and then I'm done. Aaron Hargrave says, my question has to do with Japanese chisels. 16 years of woodwork, I've never even held one past knowing that they look awesome. Is there a technical difference? I spend a lot of time flattening the backs of my chisels and I use the back all the time. So basically I'm asking, is the hollow grind of the Japanese chisel a new learning curve? Well, let's take a look at one.
I just so happen
to have a Japanese chisel here. So these are Japanese chisels. All right, these are Fuji Euro chisels. I get them at a Hida Tool, whatever. Couple key differences here. Now, first of all, it really isn't going to make a huge difference if, when you compare these to a Western style chisel, both of these are going to produce great results, right? If you sharpen them and you know how to use them, you're going to be fine, right? But if you get down to the nitty gritty, there are differences between them that might make a difference to you, right? For me personally, I like the idea. I feel like there's history with a Japanese chisel. The maker, the blacksmith that made it has their name on the chisel. This is just cool. This makes me feel like an old world carpenter, right? And I tend to gravitate toward, Eastern things, just in philosophies and just my personal interests. So that's why I like them, okay? But there are actual technical attributes that you need to be aware of. First of all, look at the handle, all right? So you gotta decide if this kind of a handle, oh, snap.
Oh, geez, scared me. Did you start bleeding on camera?
No, it's just worse. My drawers fell. Who cares about the blood? I'll heal. You've got this style of handle. This may not be comfortable for everybody. A lot of people, look at the Narex, you've got a much different handle here. Right? And a lot of people prefer one over the other. And every brand kind of has a different handle. So your Western style chisels generally are going to have just a large solid wood handle. Your Japanese chisels are gonna have this ring at the top, and you have the wood that's kind of mushroomed over it, which is kind of nice. When you get down to the steel, there is a difference. Generally, this stuff is harder, okay? So and the way it was explained to me is you've got layers of steel built up here that are kind of folded over. So because of that, the fact that it's harder and the fact that you've got that layering, you do have to treat the bevel a little bit differently. You don't necessarily want to hollow grind your bevel, which is perfectly fine on most other chisels. If you hollow grind, you're kind of exposing those layers in a way that isn't really good, and it could make the edge weak. You also don't necessarily want to do a micro bevel, all right? And what you see here is not actually a micro bevel. I'm just establishing a new bevel because I wanted something a little bit more significant, like a 35-degree bevel, and the factory grind on this was a little bit less than that, all right? So you do have to treat it a little bit differently in that sense, but you know, it's hard. Once it's sharpened, they stay sharpened for a really long time. Because it's harder, look at the back. You see those hollows? It's one of the trademarks of the Japanese chisels. This one has 2 hollows and the bigger one has 3. Well, because it's harder steel, it's actually going to take longer to sharpen. So this is something that actually makes it take less time, right? Because you're not sharpening as much material. So you basically have these hollows in here and you're only sharpening the high spots. And you could still get a flat reference, right? Because you're referencing off of those high points. There's nothing wrong there. I use these for pairing operations all the time, but you're not having to actually sharpen and hone quite as much steel as you would on a comparable Western chisel. So I think that's really the bulk of it. The other thing is a lot of times you're going to find these are in metric, so that might be an issue, but to me that's advantageous because it's slightly less than the imperial equivalent, which means if I'm making like a dado or something, I could fit my 3/4 inch, or what would it be, 18 millimeter? I could fit that chisel in a 3/4 inch dado without dinging up the sides of that dado or a mortise. All right, so that's pretty much it.
Cool.
I like them.
Brad Campbell, I'm making a coved miter frame. What are some of the things I could do to fix a slightly more than 45-degree miter? Miter saw isn't exact enough to fix 1 degree.
Well, that's where a shooting board comes in handy. If you're doing picture frames and you're just getting results where it's just a little bit off, if you could make yourself a nice shooting board, and basically it's just made from plywood or wood scraps, you get that thing locked in at 45 degrees, you don't have to think about it too much. You just need to take a little bit off, run it through the shooting board, it'll be dead on 45.
So if he makes the shooting board, it could fix that?
Yes.
Okay.
And it'll fix future problems too. Shooting boards are really good to have on hand.
Do you have a video about shooting boards?
No.
You should probably do that.
I don't have it. I have a shooting board right here that I have yet to use. So I bought it, you know, because that's what you do.
Somebody.
Evanfall, I think, is Evanfall Studios.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I just haven't had a chance to set it up.
Joe,
I also use an Incra miter gauge on a table saw, which nails the 45.
Joe
Lapalito,
no question. I just wanted to buy you two some coffee and thank you for the hard work of running Woodworkers Fighting
Thanks,
Cancer.
Joe.
Joe was one of our individual sponsors.
Oh,
so
nice.
Thank you, Joe.
And wait, just names and faces.
Yes.
Tricky. I think I met Joe.
Probably.
I think Joe was at the Colorado Woodworkers Association. He happened to be in town.
Oh, cool.
I think that's who it was. I think it was Joe Lapalito.
Joe.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. I have one last question here from our buddy, Peter Boys.
Oh, Peter.
Not Boyes, Boys.
Boys.
I have a cherry slab that I plan on turning into a coffee table. It has a couple of checks in it that I need to fill with epoxy. I've got West Systems, and I know you've used trans tint dyes before. Given that cherry will darken over time, how would you determine the color? A special shout out to veterans out there. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Peter, I think the problem with epoxy is you have to look at the nature of it and the color of it. It's sort of a clear material, right? So if I'm using epoxy, I'm never using it to do a match. It is always used to become an accent, like a knot, right? Because it's hard to make that stuff look like filler. Okay, so you can use some of the like high density additive filler that you can put into the epoxy.
Did you see the email I forwarded you about the clear grain filler?
I saw it. I also ignored it. So you could put this filler stuff in there, and that turns it like a gray color. From that point, you could probably add some dyes and get it a little bit closer to like the natural color of wood. But if that's what you're shooting for, I don't think epoxy is your material. You may actually want to use true filler. Problem is, true filler isn't going to stop something that's checked from checking more. Epoxy will. So my advice is to embrace the chaos and turn those checks into a feature. Try to get it, you know, somewhat close in color, but it'll be brown, right? It's not going to match the cherry. It'll be brownish, and fill those checks and cracks with that stuff. And that should, oh, there's your timer. Oh crap, my phone's all the way over there. That should, it'll definitely do its job, but you're sort of letting those checks be a visual statement in the piece. I think that's your best course of action. Keep going with questions. I'm gonna go hit the timer, and once those questions are done, we are done.
I got a question here that was emailed me from Travis. I'm building a record player console. I have a, oh, I think this is it the same one? It seems like it's the same one. This is Brad and this is Travis. They both have a 40.
Both have the same question?
Similar. I have cut 45-degree miters and will be dominoing them together using 30mm dominoes. Would it be appropriate to use some thin CA glue to seal the end grain a bit before applying the wood glue to help prevent the end grain from absorbing the wood glue too much?
No, I mean, if you're using dominoes, you're fine. Don't overthink it. The dominoes are absolutely going to be strong enough. I will say that if there is a situation where you do need to reinforce a miter, and maybe you don't have dominoes and you're just going, you know, 45 to 45 end grain, there is a method out there that can help, and that's to use a little bit of glue size. So if you take a little bit of PVA glue, dilute it down with water, and then you sort of just paint it on the surface. It's not going to do much. It's just going to seal it up a little bit. It'll still absorb, because if it doesn't absorb, glue doesn't work. If it absorbs too much, the glue doesn't work that well, right? So we're trying to find a happy medium. So if you kind of paint on a little bit of that glue size, it'll suck it up, partially seal the corner, and then you can actually glue it together and you'll get a better bond. That's kind of what he's referring to. But if you have a domino in there, dude, you're fine. Just use the domino.
Kevin really likes your shirt.
Oh, thanks,
I picked this up at Target. In the sections that have like all the cool, like Marvel and Power Rangers and all that stuff, and it's on clearance right now. You might be able to still find them if you're interested in getting a shirt like that.
Do you have any more here?
I do. I have super chats. Torsten, 1977, did a super chat and said, put this towards some Swedish Mora knives. These guys.
Oh. What are they, like marking knives?
I guess.
Swedish Mora Sloyd knives.
Yeah.
Wow.
Swedish, oh yeah, like that. Swedish Sloyd knife.
What am I supposed to do with that?
I'm not sure. It's
Is that if I ever have to go to jail?
Because you're shiv.
I could shiv my enemies. That's what it looks like.
It says best white oak scraping knife we've ever used. Comfortable knife, laminated blade.
Interesting stuff. All right, what's next?
Another super chat from Lenny. Matt of EBB. 2 canister dust collection that is $800 has 2K CFM and the cyclone system that is 1K but only has 900 CMF. What's the advantage of the cyclone? Did I not read that right?
It's fine. It's fine. It's just a question that I would need to kind of look at the two to get a better idea of what the differences are. But generally speaking, your cyclone is just a different beast. You know, you're going to empty a big bin at the bottom, whereas your canisters are usually going to have like a bag at the bottom. It's a little bit messier to clean up. Personally, I would much prefer to use a cyclone. I think they have great separation, and then I find it easier to maintain. But it's not to say that the other system isn't any good. I think it's just a little bit more work to maintain it.
Gazank said
for carving.
The more knives are for carving, usually spoons. Okay. There you go.
Sweet.
Ness G, good day, Mark and Nicole. Hope you're doing well and have a great weekend.
Oh, speaking of Ness and Australia, so this isn't official yet because we haven't signed any contracts, but I did get the contact from the folks at the woodworking show thing that they're doing in Australia
next
year.
In
2018. And it looks like there's a very real possibility that we'll be going to Australia.
Oh my gosh.
So,
oh my gosh.
All you Australians who hate it when I say put another shrimp on the Barbie, now's your opportunity to tell me in person that I'm a moron.
How cool is that?
Yep. So that's going to be awesome.
I'm excited.
But yeah, I don't want to say too much because we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't, it's not 100%.
It's not final.
It's not 100%, but
we'll get there.
The possibility is there, and yeah.
Is that all?
Yes. I grabbed a whole bunch of questions.
Tough noogies, Nicole. Tough noogies. No, we have to close the show.
Okay.
So if you want to help us out, anytime you want to, you've just got a few extra dollars burning a hole in your pocket, and you go, you know what? I like that Friday live show. I'm going to help those guys out. Go to patreon.com/woodwhisperer. And this is where I get the initial set of questions from, is over on Patreon. And I'd like to thank a few people who helped us out there. Jason Altoff, Jeff Grant, Derek Annenson.
I think that's who sent us the coin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Derek Annenson.
Yeah, because I thought it was Anderson, but yeah, it's him.
Yep, him.
Derek.
Cool. Thanks, Derek. Peter Anderson, Grant and Deb Ramsey, and Jay Grossi. So thank you so much. And every show we give away a free project to someone who asked a question, but we forget to talk about it. But we do it after the show.
We do it offline.
So I'm going to pick a winner today. It's going to be Aaron Hargrave. I like the Japanese chisel question.
Yes.
So thank you for that, Aaron, and contact Nicole, or you'll contact him.
I will contact Aaron directly.
Okay. And we'll find out which project.
And what's on sale this weekend?
The Green and Green Adirondak Chair.
Did we already talk about that?
I did.
Okay.
I mentioned it briefly at the beginning.
I just kind of zoned it out.
Yeah, that's on
sale. So yeah,
today.
if you're curious about what's going on sale, thewoodwhisperer.com/calendar will have all the up and coming sales up until the holiday, Christmas.
Yeah.
I do have one. D. Allens is doing something for an auction, and he was wanting if anyone had good ideas what he could build for an auction. Cutting boards, honestly, auction well.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Everybody needs a cutting board. Even when
kitchen items.
I was gonna say, even when you already have a cutting board, you can. When I go to the store, I see cutting boards. I go, maybe.
When Nicole's in the kitchen, she's two-fisting it, chopping the meat like this.
Well, like chopping the meat.
Yeah.
But yeah, a nice set of cutting boards, like different sizes. Oh man, that would probably go nice in an auction.
Yeah.
So
Certainly, Nicole.
There you go.
Well, thank you for watching, everybody. And I guess we will catch you next Friday.
We only have so much time. I feel like we could be on here for 2 hours and still not get through all the questions.
That's the problem, Nicole. We could be here for far too long.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
But we have things to do.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye.
Peace out. Where's the exit?
Aw. Raphael says, hello from Mexico. I never miss your live shows. Keep the humor on.
Woo!
Thanks, Raphael.